escape velocity, right? Just from zero to something. The most powerful communicators and leaders recognize the importance of behaviors.
Alrighty, you guys, welcome back to the Unlock Your Freedom podcast with Kevin Keppel. And today, two fantastic guests joining me, which I'm super excited to introduce you to one of these gentlemen. The other one you already know, so I'm excited to bring him back. We got Josh Connally and Andy Mitchell here together today, and they're going to share some of their experience around entrepreneurship and philanthropy specifically. And last week on the show, we had Josh, and he shared some of the things he's doing with NDC Outdoor Legacy, which is pretty phenomenal to get to be a part of, whatever small part I have. But I'm really thankful that I've gotten to be a fly on the wall in Josh's trajectory. I started working with him and his company about 5 years ago. And early on, one of the first things he told me he wanted was to find a way to give back more. And prior to starting NDC Outdoor Legacy, Josh's charity, he was involved with some of the fine folks at Sights on Christ, and they really got him turned on in his faith especially, but also in just serving and giving back. And so I'm really excited to have Andy Mitchell here today. He's the founder of Sights on Christ, or one of the co-founders. And but first and foremost, I want to kick it off to you, Josh, and man, just tell us a little bit about the journey towards philanthropy and why that's on your heart so big.
Man, thanks for having me again, bud. Man, I'm really excited about this. The guy sitting here beside me, I don't know. We started with the business, and we've always had kind of a gives back mentality part of the business. I knew that was something that I really wanted to do early on in my career business. I knew that part of that giving back, it comes back, right? That's just, and originally I think it started more of a marketing thing. You start and you're like, well, if I give back to what started with Texas Scottish Rite Children's Hospital, we used to do a big thing with them. And then, doing what God does. So he's like, okay, you're going to market, huh? Then I'm going to introduce you to Brian Hazelwood, and he does a golf tournament that benefits Texas Scottish Rite. And then his daughter has been treated there since she was 11th day after she was born, she was treated there. And getting to know the family. Now I'm Uncle Josh to Presley, and great friends with Brandy and Brian. And so, it's one of those weird deals where you start out with maybe a little bit of selfish intent, and then, he just kicks you right in the knee and says, okay, well, I'll show you how it really needs to be done. So, and then it just started with that. We ended up doing that. Then, I met Andy, funny-ish story. I met Andy through another friend of ours who he was posting stuff that Andy was posting about a hunt with this kid or young man now, Josh Pfluger, who is in a wheelchair. And I don't know how it started or what it is. Friday afternoon, I saw the post that he made, and something just gripped me, and I was like, man, that's pretty cool. And then Saturday morning, I'm rooting for Josh, and I don't know the young man, and Andy posts Saturday night, and then Sunday morning, and said, we didn't get him yet, we're staying. And Sunday afternoon late, he did. Josh ended up getting an animal, and Andy was broke up over it, and in the post, and I realized right then and there I wanted to be a part of that. Kids have always been a passion of mine, so it was a pretty cool deal to watch somebody that I didn't know and touch me in a way that I basically called our mutual friend, and it was like, hey, I need his number. I got a place, and I'd like to host the event.
I was so inspired by watching your journey and how fired up you got when you met Andy and the other folks at Sights on Christ. And every time we talked, that's all you wanted to talk about, and which I was happy to listen to because it was super interesting to me. But I love seeing, somebody I care about that excited about something, and it's in a way to give back and help others. So I'd love to turn it over to you here in just a second, Andy. But real quick, you guys, Andy in his professional life is the founder and CEO of Mitchell Excavation here in DFW, and also, as I mentioned, one of the co-founders of Sights on Christ. So, Andy, welcome, and man, just tell us how you got started with Sights on Christ.
Man, thanks for having me on the show. This is obviously something I've never done, but it's pretty cool to be here, and I always want to talk about my Lord and what He's done for me. And obviously sights on Christ is a reflection of that. And I always want to make sure that people understand I'm just a vessel. It's really how God works through us and what he does in our lives. So it really started because I was on a deer lease with a guy by the name of Matt Rager, who this was his kind of brainchild. He came up with the idea and wanted to do some youth hunts and asked me if I would help him. And we did, we put together a youth hog hunt on our ranch that we were leasing. And we took 5 kids, and another gentleman by the name of Pete Busby came. He was a youth pastor at the time, and he gave messages, and we basically fed kids on the tailgate out of a cooler, and we brought guns. And I just remember leaving that Sunday. My son was with me, and he was 12 at the time. And I just remember thinking, this is where God wants me to serve. I mean, this is something that I could see. One, I love the outdoors and love to hunt and fish, and I think that's something that we're losing with our kids today. And so I was passionate about that, but mostly it was about, I saw that Jesus could change these kids' lives and get them outdoors and get to experience what I got to experience, kind of growing up with my uncle. My uncle was a very good mentor to me in a lot of ways, and then my dad later in life. But when I was young, my uncle would take me quail hunting, and we'd talk about God on those trips. And I just remember that's really how I met Jesus, was in a field in Kansas, with my uncle chasing bird dogs all around. So anyways, we just did the first hunt together. And after that, it just kind of really took off because honestly, people like Josh, David Marks, Joe Watkins, there's Michael Rackley, there's so many I could mention that have just really got in behind us and helped us grow this organization to where it is now. We gave away our first scholarship this last year to a high school girl, and we'll do that every year going forward. So to start the way we did and just see how God's worked through it and through a bunch of just normal people, it's been a pretty cool experience to see that for sure.
I think that was pretty profound at the end, especially what you just said. It's to see how God works through normal people. And like when we let him flow through us, that's how we become infinite, because he's infinite, no beginning, no end. But when we get trapped in that finite part of ourselves, like that thinking part, that's where we get into trouble, because there's a beginning, there's an end. And it is scary because you just severed your connection to the infinite. That's why you're terrified. Yeah. And the super simple solution, but not easy, let go. And it took me a long time to get there. And I grew up going to church, and I was like, I got this. And then I got away from it. And the farther I got away, the harder my life got. But the cool thing is, he was always waiting right there for me. I'd love to hear a little bit about just kind of what it looks like at some of the events y'all put on.
Well, I could tell stories for days about these kids, honestly. But usually what we'll do is we'll get anywhere from 8 to 12 kids. Sometimes some are smaller, depends on the size of the ranch. And like I said, it's people like Josh that have a nice place, and they reach out to us and say, hey man, we want you to do this at our ranch. And so that's the first big step, is people willing to let us come to their places, which is sometimes the hardest part, is just to find a place. But we've been very fortunate. And so we'll usually go on a Friday after school. We'll pick these kids up and get them out to the ranch. We'll usually have, early morning Saturday hunt. We'll do lunch, usually have a devotional with the kids, and then we'll go back out Saturday evening, and we'll have a devotional Saturday night. And then we'll go hunt Sunday, make sure we get the ranch cleaned back up. We always want to leave it better than we found it. And so and then we'll close with a devotional. And we baptized the kid at Josh's place last year in his pond. I've been able to baptize kids in ponds and creeks, and it's just been a super cool experience. But really, it's just taking kids hunting. It's just taking them hunting and loving on them and teaching them about what God has in store for their lives. And that's really the basis of what SOC does. And it takes a lot of people. We have women now that help. We started a girls division. We were skeptical of that because it was a bunch of guys. So we had some women that really have stepped up, and now they do the girls hunts and kind of run the girls division, which is super cool. But it's really people, just to talk about Josh a minute, I remember after that hunt we did, I thought, who is this guy? He starts messaging me on Facebook. He's like, I want to meet you. I think that's the coolest thing ever. And I got a place. And I hear that a lot, but then there's no follow-up. Josh wasn't going to let it go. And I mean, after a couple messages, I'm like, I'm going to go meet this guy. And so, heck, he's one of my best friends now. I mean, that's the way it works, right?
Yeah.
And it's guys that actually step up and see what we're doing, that are willing to, kind of take a chance on us, open up their places. And a lot of people that don't hunt don't understand. I mean, these guys are letting us come shoot animals that maybe they desire to shoot or they raised or whatever. It's really special when we can go to a place and they let them harvest animals, and then we're able to give all the meat back to the families, which is cool. We've had guys that stepped up and they'll process it for us, and we've even mounted deer for kids that they get to put in their memories that they'll get to have for a lifetime at their home. So it's kind of come full circle, to be honest with you. And this is our 11th year, I believe, doing this. And I tell people all the time that if our intentions weren't true, there's no way that this organization would be where it's at today. But when you take a collective group of men or women, and it's all about the kingdom and how we help the kingdom of Christ, I've just seen God step up time after time after time. When we didn't have money to do one of these things, somebody write us a check, or a business would step up, and one of the coolest guys that I know that we do this with, David Marks. I met him on the side of the road at a gas station. Literally had been praying all weekend about the Lord open up some more ranches for us. We needed more places to go. We were getting more kids involved. And we no sooner leave that ranch in San Saba, Texas, and stopped in Evant, Texas at a gas station on the side of the road. And I was pulling a trailer that said Sights on Christ, and I had 4 or 5 kids with me. And this guy walks right up to me and it's like, hey, man, what are y'all doing? And so now we do 1 or 2 hunts every year at David's. He's one of our biggest monetary sponsors. He helps every year that way, but just, super, super good guy.
And a leader inside of the organization now. I mean, the same. It's wild to hear the stories, because I guess I'm 7th year into this thing. So just to see, like, even from, there was probably 4 ranches at that point, but it's really neat to watch, especially watch like somebody like Michael Rackley, who's infinitely important to organization now. He takes a lot of this stuff on him and his family. His wife is one of the women mentors and
very involved.
Yeah, very involved. I mean, you've heard the story, but I've been praying like crazy too, because my daughter grew up watching me leave to go do these boys hunts, and asking for the last 2 or 3 years, why can't I come? Well, it's because it's a bunch of teenage boys.
It's the opposite of what I want you around.
Yeah. So, and then, next thing you know, there's a girl's side that kicks off, and, Hunter got to the age where I was comfortable taking her to something like that, and her not embarrassing me. So yeah, it was cool to watch. It was cool to watch her become a part of the organization. She was there for 2 years. She got saved on my ranch last year in January. So it was I'll be eternally grateful to SOC that they gave me an outlet for my family and my daughter to be introduced to that in a big way. So hunting and fishing, and his daughter Mabry is an all-star at everything she touches, and she's she's got a little hero worship from Hunter. I was telling Andy that if I need to correct something in Hunter's behavior, I usually just ask her if Mabry would be okay with her acting like that. So.
I'll have to make sure and tell Mabry that. I will say I've been very blessed with 2 beautiful children, and my son, he gave his life to Christ at Sights on Christ. Well, it was a wild game dinner we did, but it was kind of through Sights on Christ, and then Mabry, same thing. I tell people all the time, it's so hard when you go to a church, and I go to a church, so I'm not knocking at it. What I'm saying is, it's just so hard to really sometimes hear the message when you're looking at people that look so perfect, and they're in their suits, and they don't look like they sin, and they're up there on the stage, and when you go out and you're cutting a deer with a guy or you're hunting with a guy or a girl, and they're just real people, and you see Jesus in them. That's what leads people to Christ. It's not standing up there reading scriptures to somebody. It's a 16-year-old kid that's in trouble that says, man, I want to be like Josh. I want to be like Joe Watkins. I want to be like Matt or Michael. They see these guys that serve, and they're like, I want to be like these guys. And so to me, that's what our calling as Christians is really just to be a representative of what Christ has in store for our life. And I'll be the first to admit, there's times that I feel like I let the kingdom down in the way I maybe act. But the reason that we have that relationship with Jesus is that he forgives us. And I think we live in a world today where forgiveness is not so prevalent. And man, without Christ, it's easy to beat yourself up. And that's what I tell these kids. Hey, whatever you did last week, Jesus forgot about it. He's already forgiven you. And it just kind of releases them to let them be their self. Where I
just do better.
Yeah, just to do better going forward. And so we have a tendency to beat ourselves up over that. But we've had some really, really good times with these kids, and some hard times. There were some hard times where I didn't want to take kids home after an event because of some things that may be going on in the home, or just things that I'd hear. And I'm like, well, man, I got a family at home of my own I have to go on to. And so God's really tested me in a lot of ways through this organization. But again, I'll say it really has nothing to do with me and all of what God does through people when we allow him to, when we open ourselves up to Christ. It's amazing. I mean, I'm sitting here doing a podcast with you guys, and we started on the tailgate of a pickup in Telephone, Texas. It's pretty amazing to see where it's been.
Alrighty, you guys, it's time to pause for a very important cause. Wanted to give a shout out and a thank you to one of our sponsors, CBG Land Surveying. At CBG, they strive to make a positive impact through serving their community at the highest level possible. From their employees to their clients to their communities, CBG believes in service first and giving back. CBG is in the business of growing people and providing opportunity for professional growth, fundamental happiness, and confidence. And if you have surveying needs, I highly recommend them. They are a company full of amazing people, and they are just fantastic to be associated with. And we are grateful to have them as sponsors of our podcast on Unlocking Your Freedom. And a huge shout out to another one of our amazing sponsors, NDC Outdoor Legacy, where they empower and support veterans and at-risk youth by providing transformative outdoor experiences. NDC Outdoor Legacy believes in the healing power of nature, and they aim to facilitate opportunities for individuals to connect with the outdoors and themselves, fostering personal growth, resilience, and community. And a huge stamp of approval from all the people here at Unlocking Your Freedom. We absolutely love NDC and all the people that are associated with. So thank you for all the work you're doing with our veterans, and a huge shout out to all the veterans. Thank you all so much for keeping us safe. Man, that's some powerful stuff. And like so much of that, I felt like you were talking about me or directly to me, and I can totally relate because, you know, like social media is so shiny and perfect, and everybody's like got it all figured out, and everybody has a private jet but me somehow. And like, I can't relate to that. I'm a very flawed human being. Like,
Yeah, sure.
I've made many mistakes today alone, and
Sure.
it's so cool that, you know what, no matter what, he'll forgive me. I just have to give it up to him. And as long as I can let go of the C word, control, and that's what used to be really hard for me, but it's so much easier now because, like, I don't want control of everything.
Yeah.
Nor should I have it. And, you know, when I've got God, like, that's really all I need. It doesn't mean everything's going to be rainbows and puppy dogs, but
Sure.
you know what? Like, I know he's got a plan, and it's bigger than me.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty humbling.
And to see the group of guys that, I mean, I get to serve with, wow. I mean, these are guys that I could call the middle of the night, you know, real friends, true friends, people that, you know, don't just love you for what you've done in the past. They love you for who you are and what you represent. And so to have those kind of friends in your corner, man, it's hard to go wrong.
Yeah.
You know, you got to get a good bunch around you.
Yeah.
You know, and I firmly believe that the the men and women at SOC, they randomly just check on me and how you doing, and and that's a cool feeling to know that you got people that really, really support you no matter what.
That's cool too, because when you say that, it reminded me of, it's important that the way the organization, I say we, because I feel like it's family to me too. What's really neat about the organization is the follow through, right? The ability for the people inside the organization with these kids, and they become in a sense, part uncles, aunts type situation. I grew up with 50 aunts. I don't have 50 actual aunts, but my parents' friends became, very, very close friends and family to me. And I see that in the organization. I think that's what really stuck out to me after that first one, was that these kids Josh Pfluger, this young man, I keep calling him a kid. This young man is like one of his best friends now, they started as a mentor relationship, and there's nobody on the planet who's had a tougher lick than, Josh. And he is broad. So, he is solely the responsibility of me being part of this organization. I truly believe that God put him in my life and a vehicle to go find him through SOC and Josh Pfluger. And last year I got to hunt with him for the first time. I was fanboying out. I was like, I don't care what I do that weekend.
Yeah, we got ready to go. Josh's like, can I go sit with y'all? And I'm like, heck yeah, you can go sit with us. He's like, dude, we
had so much fun. We had so much fun. I enjoy everything about it. I wanted to ask you, because I don't know that I've ever asked you about because I know SOC, but that's been that 11 years of your life. I know many, many other stories about you, Andy, about that your heart was far bigger than a lot of times your abilities. Long before that, I know the story about the kid that you bought the car.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then he didn't want anybody to know about it, and it ended up being on the front page of the newspaper.
Yeah.
And then 4:00 news. So, it's neat to watch somebody like you who walks it and lives it. And I've told Kevin a few times that when I grow up, I'd like to be like you. So, it's just the stories that you tell. The one about where you gave the struggling mom her car, and then she called you back and asked you to repair it.
Yeah.
A little time later.
Yeah. Yeah. The seat was broke.
The seat was broke on the car you bought her.
Yeah. We, man, again, I never want it to be a reflection of me and just what God's done in my life, because I was raised by some good women, some of my grandmothers and people in my life. They were just good Christians, and I had that foundation, even though I drifted big time and still make mistakes today. Man, I wish I was perfect, but nobody is, right? But I think just through through owning my own business and seeing that God had given me so much more than I deserve a lot of times. And I grew up in a very humble house, we didn't have a whole lot growing up. And so to be able to give back and see how it almost changes people's lives at times, that was addicting to me. It was almost like a drug that I get more out of helping somebody than I do out of helping myself, because I always thought I have way more than I deserve, right? And I think it's that you kind of touched on it about control. When we give God control, I tell people, you better watch out, because you might end up on a podcast someday. You may be in a room with some guys over there going, what do I say? Yeah. No, really, when I finally gave it up to Jesus and just really wanted to live the life that he wanted for me, that's how I met Josh Pfluger. To talk about him for just a minute, we were doing a hunting show at the SOC. We had a booth set up at the hunting show, and early that morning, I'm in a hurry, and I go to the bathroom, and I come out, and I see this kid sitting in a wheelchair, and he's with his dad. And I walk by, and I remember just thinking, golly, wonder what's going on with that young man. And as I walked off, God said, go back. And I thought, no, God, I'm busy. I'm busy today. And I get about 50 yards down the aisle there, and God literally grabbed me by the back of the neck, I think, and said, go back. kid is one of my best friends in the whole wide world now. We've hunted, we've shot elk together in Wyoming. I mean, we've hunted all over the country, and just because I was willing to say yes. And so I think when you let go of that control and honestly let God kind of take control, he's going to introduce you to somebody that has needs or wants, and he's going to prepare you and give you the financial means or the team around you to be able to help that person in that situation. And that's what's cool. We don't have to do it. He does it. We just got to say yes.
Just got to listen, right?
Yeah. Just wake up and listen.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that we highlight the types of kids that you guys serve and work with. So could you go a little deeper on that for us?
People ask me all the time, like, where do you get these kids? And literally it's been from teachers at school. Like I said, Matt is a teacher, and that's kind of how this started. He was telling me about these kids at school and what they were going through, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I have a kid fixing to be in middle school. My son was 12 at the time, I think, and it kind of got me to thinking, like, how do we change this? And so, but the kids, they come from either a lady at church hears about it and they'll call, or it's a football coach may have a couple kids that are on his team that they know that maybe the home life is not as great as it needs to be. And so once the word kind of got out that we were working with kids that come from, and I'll just come out and say it, most of the time it's a home that dad's not around, unfortunately. And so once we kind of got the moniker, I guess, that these are the kind of kids they work with. I mean, we have people message us on Facebook. Sammy, a good buddy of mine, owns a pizza place in Rockwall.
Yeah.
He sent me 2 kids that he was helping at Christmas one year, and John and Ashley Rowe. They've been, have been through this program, and they really benefited from SOC because their life was just in a mess. I mean, goodness gracious, they had lost both parents in a matter of 3 months, and they were 16. And we really were able to step up and help and do some things that were pretty unconventional. But yeah, it's just really the kids that, one, I want to deal with a kid that doesn't get this opportunity. And because when they get to go out to a place like Josh's and shoot guns and fish and do all the things that we do, we never turn on a cell phone, and these kids are just smiling and happy the whole time.
Well, and it's so cool to see the second generation now that we're coming into where we have kids now are starting to
mentor
and become junior mentors, and starting to invite their friends. They know some stuff that maybe even the parents don't know that are going on in these young men and women's lives, and now they're called to bring their friends to this organization. We got one girl that started a S3 inside a high school in Royce City now, which is a prayer club that meets once a week. There's about 150 members that meet. So
wrap us up, Andy. Tell us how people can get involved with Sights on Christ and connect with you.
Well, we have a website at sightsonchrist.com. You can go on there and see, email us. Then we have, we're on Facebook, and obviously that's probably the way most people reach out to us, is Facebook or Messenger or something like that. But if you have a kid that's in need or want to get involved and be a mentor or be a part of what we're doing, we'd love to have you guys. It's definitely a life-changing thing for all the men and women that are involved, and the kids as well.
That's powerful. Thanks. Josh, thanks for being here, man. I appreciate your input too.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I love this.
Yeah, me too. Andy, thanks for coming on, sharing your heart, man.
Man, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it's my pleasure. You did all the work. I just sat here and nodded, so my job was easy. All righty, you guys, thanks for being here for another episode of Unlocking Your Freedom. And if you guys made it to the end, you obviously have great taste in podcasts, so share it out with your friends. Somebody could definitely benefit from Andy and Josh's message, and check out what they're doing at Sights on Christ and NDC Outdoor Legacy. It's really important work, and they're helping a lot of people. And if you haven't already, be sure and check out my new book, Unlocking Your Freedom, on Amazon. Recently a #1 international bestseller. Super grateful if you do purchase it. Please leave a review. It helps a ton. All righty. I love you guys. See y'all next time.
Alrighty, you guys, thanks for making it through to the end of the Unlock Your Freedom podcast with us. Really grateful to have amazing listeners like you. Thank you guys again for listening. We love you, and we'll see you next time inside the Unlock Your Freedom podcast with Kevin Keppel.